your guide to the truth. TheNewAmericanMedia.com.
Broadcasting to you live from the Milky Way Galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, California, Los Angeles to be specific. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Agree to Disagree here on the TNAM radio network here at thenewamericanmedia.com. My name is Brian Engelman and I'm going to be your host as I have been for the past 3.5 years. I appreciate you. I love you all for listening. And I want you to stay connected with us, so please go to thenewamericanmedia.com and check out what we're doing there. All of our stuff is archived, and on the right-hand side, you'll see a couple of things. One says TNAM Radio and an American flag. That's where you click play to listen live to all of our shows. Underneath that is our Twitter feed and our Facebook feed. You can do a search on Facebook for The New American Media with spaces in between, and you can like our page. Or you can just do it from our homepage. Also, our Twitter feed, we're at American_media_. That's American_media_. And on YouTube, youtube.com/The New American Media. Click subscribe and check out all of the shows that we have over there and leave your comments. Join the conversation. The conversation we're having tonight is going to be with John Correia, and we're talking about ASP, cover your ASP. Active self-protection. Yes. Yes. Yeah. We're going to talk with John because recently we've been watching some of the videos he's putting out, and he posts he posts situations that you might find yourself in if you're on a public bus and somebody jumps on with a knife and tries to... What do you do? If there's an active shooter, what do you do? If there's an attempted kidnapping, what do you do? It's all these situations. It's situational awareness. You have to be aware of if X, then Y. Why are you going to act? Why are you not going to act? Are you going to run toward the fire? Are you going to run away from it? If you're in a spot, what do you do? So that's why I'm so excited for this program tonight. And without further delay, I say we just get John into the program and start going over all this stuff. There's really nothing more important than taking care of yourself. These are the shows I love doing.
This is
John, this is Brian with the New American Media. You are live, sir. How you doing this evening?
Brian, great to hear from you, man. I'm well. How are you?
You know, I'm living the dream. I can't complain. You know, I'm on this little blue marble floating around the galaxy, and you know, most of the time it's pretty cool. However, just in between Christmas and New Year's, I believe, there was an attack in my neighborhood, just a couple of buildings down, and a woman was beaten into a coma. We heard she had died, and then we heard she might not have died, and it's still tough to get information. But, you know, when you have a monster in your neighborhood, it changes everything, John.
No kidding.
You know, it just shakes you. I had a situation where 3 pit bulls ran into my front yard and ripped the throat out of my neighbor's dog, and 3 of them actually chased me to the next building over as I ran out to try to help, and I had flip-flops and a phone on me. I didn't even have my knife. I had nothing at the time, and I was like, hell no. And it took an hour and 45 minutes for animal control to come in as things were killing living things in my neighborhood. So, you know, it's just a reminder to me that there are monsters out there, both 4-legged and 2-legged, that can attempt to cause harm. And that's why I'm so excited to bring you into the program today and find out what you're doing with ASP. Let's kind of start off with that. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Did I pronounce your last name correctly? Correia?
Correia, just like the country. I guess my grandfather would say Correia. You know, he's a good Portuguese.
Correia.
Correia, just like the country is how I pronounce it.
Okay, perfect. First question then, why did you hack the interview? What was going on? Why do you have a vendetta with Sony? Mr. Correia, what are you doing?
Yeah. Well, you know, Sony was, you know, they just got in our way. There's nothing we could do. Wait,
what got in our way? It's just funny because Sony really is kind of right in my backyard over here in Los Angeles, and drive past it all the time. And when it was making national headline news, you're just going, really? Over a movie? And then turns out it really had nothing to do with North Korea. But I digress. So, John Correia, welcome to the program. And tell us a little bit about yourself. How in the heck did you start doing this? I know this isn't your main gig, but I've been finding these videos online, and I'm sharing them, and I'm commenting in some of my private groups, some different gun owners groups, and it's like, what do you do if this happens? And it's just the craziest stuff you're sharing on there. So just tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you start doing this?
Well, you know, I started maybe not quite the same as you, but with the similar thing that it started with a need in my own life. I grew up doing a little bit of hunting. My grandpa was into firearms. I did a little bit of hunting, a little bit of shooting, but not really. I joined the military, but, you know, it's not like I was an 11 Bravo grunting in Afghanistan or whatever. I was in the Navy. I made hot water the hard way for 8 years. And when I got out to go to graduate school. And while I was doing that, I ran a video game store, of all things, to make ends meet, feed my wife and children. And that was about the time that the generation before this of video game consoles came out. And there was just news reports all over the place of video game managers getting mugged and beaten and killed for Xbox 360s.
Oh, geez.
And, you know, stores get knocked over and all this stuff. And I just said, you know, man, I'm not going to have it. My wife and I had bought a house a few years before, and I'd bought a shotgun for home defense because I was comfortable with that. We'd always had one in the home when I was a kid. But then when I saw all this going down, I thought, you know, man, I'm going to get a gun so that this doesn't happen to me. And I did like a lot of people do, which is I went down and got a concealed carry permit. I live in Arizona, and that was easy. I mean, I went and took a class. I did some fingerprints. I sent in some money, and there it came back.
Yeah, try doing that in California. Try doing that in California. It's a little tricky.
Well, yeah, well, okay. I mean, you know, I'm a native Californian, so, you know, having moved out of California, it's fun in free America. You should try it sometime.
You know, as you see monsters attacking women in laundry rooms, and you know, it makes you think, why do I need to be packed in like a sardine over here? I prefer free America. I'm from Ohio. I spent a quarter of a century over there, and I've been out here for almost a decade now in Los Angeles. Yeah. So, no, but I mean, you talk about working in the video game store, and you were seeing all these robberies, kind of like if you were a shoe dealer or something back when the Jordans came out, and people were getting stabbed and murdered, you know, shot and killed for pairs of shoes. No, I can imagine that that would spark a bit of a fight or flight frenzy with you and your family. And what'd you say? You started off with a shotgun, and then you got your CCW?
Yeah, I got my CCW, and I did like a lot of Americans. I just put the gun on my hip and used it functionally like a magic talisman. Danger, you know. I had a gun, and I had a little bit of training, and I could do basic marksmanship. But in reality, if somebody had attacked me, I'd have been in trouble. About the same time, my son, this was pretty funny. When I was going to graduate school, my son was a little guy. He was taking martial arts. He was taking at the local community center, asked me to join him, but I told him I was too busy because I was in grad school and working full time. So at my grad school graduation, he looked up at me and he said, "Papa, are you going to come and take Kempo with me now?" And I couldn't tell him no. So I started doing that and really fell in love with it. And then I realized pretty quickly, you know, after doing that, man, if I was going to actually carry a firearm and be able to use it, I needed to be able to do more than just a CCW class. I needed to actually train with it and practice with it and get good with it. And then combining that with the martial arts training, you know, it wasn't too long after that I realized, you know, I'm a teacher at my core. I love to teach and help other people. That's what I'm built for. And so, you know, with my wife's blessing, I started off small. I went and got some instructor certificates and started little, and then really started active self-protection in 2011 to start helping people to develop the attitude and skills and plan to protect themselves, and to realize that a CCW and a gun on your hip's probably not enough to protect yourself when things go wrong.
Oh, I'll tell you what, our producer, Chris Engelman, who reached out to you, I believe, through Facebook, or at least continued the conversation that way, he is an NRA certified, man, I don't know if I'm going to say this exactly accurate, but he's certified through the NRA to give courses in training. I forget exactly what the title is, but when I was recently home, I went to my brother's place, that is my brother, and I went over there, and we did this course out in, kind of out in the country, the cornfields, in a big lake, and really out in the middle of nowhere. So in between watching the Browns and Saints game, I kept going out and getting training. I flew across the country with my handgun, checked it, stored it. All right, here you go. Put the little tag in. Thank you much. So I brought my Smith & Wesson out there, and we were doing different training. We were running around. He's like, all right, now jump down. Now you got to grab this long rifle, and you got to shoot it. And he had bamboo with a couple of stakes with different T-shirts and different balloons, so you're aiming at a humanoid type figure. And it's like, get the Coors Light guy, Coors Light guy, and you had to read the shirt, green head, and it was just, he's like, he'd tell you different things. It's way different than just standing there, standing still at a shooting range. It's different when it's like threat, and you pull the gun up and your adrenaline's going because he's yelling in your ear, because if it ever happens, it's gonna be chaos. And then he's like, no, never mind, it's just grandma walking the dog, and you're like, you son of a,
Right.
But that's what it is. You got to get ready and make sure that you don't fly off the trigger. Literally, you're right. It is way different to get the types of training needed out in the field. Versus just standing there at a shooting range. To talk about that difference, how did you start realizing it was way different? Just carrying something around with you and really knowing how to run around with it, hide behind things. Knowing your environment, knowing what's behind the target. When did all that start clicking for you?
Well, it's really as I started getting into the more senior ranks in martial arts. The art I study is a derivative of Ed Parker's American Kempo, and the higher you get, the kind of more you realize how dynamic, fluid, and not kind of program everything goes. And so, the reality is, in a martial art, the less you want to get in a fight, unless you're studying at Cobra Kai or whatever. But I kept looking at that, and then I started looking for, okay, so what do real fights look like? Not what we say in the dojo or not. And that's kind of the bread and butter of active self-protection today. Our social media presence and on our website is showing people real life violence. Do not to just be morbid or anything like that, but to say, listen, this is the realities of violence. And it's amazing in our culture today how cheap quality recording software is, and the fact that so many have video recording capabilities. There's surveillance cameras and dash cams and cell phone cameras today, and so the number of people who there's real life experience and examples. And so rather than just looking for anecdotes, we started looking for what really works in the real world. What actually happens when a fight goes down? Because like I do, I mean, thousands of people defend themselves from attackers every year without any real significant training.
Right.
The number of fifth-degree black belts who get attacked is very small. And so people defend themselves all the time, and with pure blind luck, make it out, or with a few skills or a few little things. And so we just started looking for what works, what is the reality of things. And so really what we focus on is not, okay, so this technique works great on the mat. What we try to do is look and say, and not from the perspective of, okay, so Master so-and-so tells us about this fight he had this one time, but actually watching it on the screen. This is what happens. Look at what happens in this instance. And then learning from there. And after a while, you watch 100, 200, 300, 400 armed robberies. I was joking with a friend the other day that in the last year, I've seen 1,000 armed robberies. And from those, you can learn some patterns. And you can really see kind of how they work. When you watch 500 muggings and see what really goes down, you can start to see some patterns. Not that they all go the same, but that there are some things that show up again and again and again.
Well, I want to ask you specifically about the patterns, but I mean, you made a good point there, and I didn't want to gloss over it. And I really want to drive this home for people out there. I mean, if you've been watching the economic collapse in 07, 08, and you watch the housing collapse, and you think that the dollar's in trouble, and so you're trying to get some silver or gold, or trying to get some extra food storage. Okay, I mean that's all fine, but that doesn't really get you prepared. I've heard somebody say, and I wish I knew where to attribute it to, but having a shotgun for self-defense doesn't make you a marksman any more than having a guitar makes you a musician. You got to practice. Right. You need to know this stuff, and it takes a lot of time. You got to know how to field strip it. You got to know how to clean it. What happens if it jams? How do you clear it? the chamber. And I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. And I wanted to ask you specifically as well. You said we started finding all the videos. When you say we, is it just you, or do you have a team of people working at ASP?
Well, you know, it's kind of a one-man show. Just so you know, that quote that you quoted there is a quote from Jeff Cooper, and it's having a gun doesn't make you armed any more than owning a guitar makes you a musician, is the original of that.
And who is Jeff Cooper?
Jeff Cooper is the inventor, the father of the modern technique of handgun shooting. He was the guy who, you know, founded Gunsight and is really, you know, everybody looks up to him. He's the father of modern handgun shooting.
I guess I was looking up to him and I didn't even know it. But you know, that's in our meme conscious society. You know, we go off bumper stickers and 140 characters on Twitter and nice pithy memes that get the point across. And I'll tell you what, if you don't understand the concept of having a guitar doesn't make you a musician, practice your damn firearm. I don't know what's going to get through your head. There's no more that we can say that's going to get it across. But I mean, you said you've seen 1,000 muggings and stuff, and I wanted to get back to where I cut you off there so beautifully. And you said you saw patterns developing, and I'm curious to kind of what you've been noticing.
Well, to answer your original question that you asked before, I do have a team, but I'm the guy that does most of the video stuff. And the funny part is, at this point now, you know, our social media and especially our Facebook presence, most of the videos that I get are people sending them to me. Have you seen this one, John? Have you seen that one?
Yeah.
You know, man, I'd love your thoughts on this one. And so actually at this point now, with kind of the number of people that are seeing what we're doing, it's almost inundating. So, you know, if any of your fans are looking to help, I could use dedicated folks to help us. But
what specific,
you know,
in what specific place would you need assistance? Because I know exactly what you're saying. I do a sports show. It's called The Unhappy Hour. I'm an Indians, Cavs, and Browns fan. I've never celebrated a championship in my life. I digress. Go Buckeyes! At least they got me something. But you know, I do a sports show, and today I was refreshing Twitter every couple of seconds, like trying to get the news on Cardale Jones. Is he staying for next year? Is he going pro with 3 games under his belt? And it was actually my dad that shot me a text message. I'm like, Dad, you scooped Twitter. How did you do that? You know, and it's like people are always sending me, hey, you know, did you check out this story? I got a friend that's doing this. Or, hey, what do you think about this? Maybe you guys should cover this on your radio show. And I'll tell you what, Facebook is an amazing tool. I really don't like, you know, all the spy stuff and all the creepy things that Zuckerberg's up to. But, hey, if they're going to put it out there, you might as well beat them with their own technology than let them beat you over your head with it. And I'll tell you what, the only reason why our Facebook feed is amazing, and seriously, if you guys haven't liked it yet, do it. It's on our homepage, thenewamericanmedia.com. It's because I'm following amazing pages that are nonstop finding the best stories, and as I scroll my feed, they found it for me. So now I share it. It's like, oh, crap, I didn't know that was an update. Perfect. Check this out, guys. And it's like this social media, it's a very big give and take. And what you just said there is, you know, if anybody wants to help out, what would help you at this point? Doing videos, finding videos, uploading? Like, what are you looking for?
Well, we could definitely use help on the social media, on Facebook. I mean, right now, active self-protection today is about, creeping up. Well, within the next 3 or 4 days, we'll crack 100,000 fans, and that's great. But really, we're reaching about 2 to 3 million people a week. In the last 7 days, we've had 25,000 comments on the page. And so if you do the math, that's 150 comments an hour.
And that's impossible to stay on top of. Even if you wanted to nonstop full time, just keep updating and commenting and replying but the community does that.
All of them, but I also have here's another thing that sets ASP apart. There's plenty of pages out there that do self-defense. There's plenty of pages that do guns. But we also have a code of conduct, and we ask people to be professional. The big thing that we ask on our page is for people to act professionally. So we ask for professional language, professional demeanor, and we don't put up with racism, with stuff like that. We just get rid of those folks. So folks who wanted to maybe help in that endeavor, if they wanted to do that, they could contact me. I also need help on the web end in terms of you know, SEO stuff and getting a whole bunch of stuff done on the back end. So if people have those skills, I could certainly use them. I also need a couple of people who are the eyes and ears, who are like, hey, have you seen this story? Have we seen that story? Who then maybe could help me with some scheduling issues and stuff like that. So you know, there's if people are invested in ASP, and we got them, boy. I get messages now every day almost of people who say, "Hey, man, this, you know, what you're teaching saved my life," and let me tell you how.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
so,
you were telling me off air about your profession. I'm not sure if we haven't covered that yet, but I don't know if you want to share that or not.
Sure. I pastor a church for a living.
Yeah.
So
well, I mean,
I'm an evangelical Christian, and I've been a Christian since '98, and you know, that's not something that I grew up with. I became a Christian in '98 at the age of 22. So, you know, that's my love, and my passion is to help people to grow closer to God through Jesus. But part of doing that is helping them be around. You know, you got to be alive and around in order to do that.
Oh, absolutely. You got to put on your own oxygen mask before you can attempt to help your neighbors. They tell you that on every flight in case of emergency.
Exactly.
And I brought that up because, yes, I was raised in an evangelical church myself. My uncle's a Baptist preacher. He was in Columbus, then now down in Texas. And what I was getting at with that, and by the way, I just wanted to make sure that was something that you are public with, because, you know, you never know in this day and age. So I want to give you the option to pretend, I don't know what you're talking about, and I would have moved on. But anyway, what my point there is that you are preaching a ministry of self-defense. I mean, the turn the other cheek thing is all fine and dandy, but I mean, you got to get home to your family. You know, if my biggest, if the biggest knock in my life is that I didn't turn the other cheek and I lived a nice long life and protected my loved ones, you know what? I'll stand proudly, and you can throw a pie at my face and say, "All right, now come on in. You're a good guy." And I go, "I know I'm a good guy. Thanks for the pie."
You know, Brian, let me just say this. I mean, I've got a pretty significant stuff on Christians and self-defense if anybody's interested in that. But, you know, when Jesus says turn the other cheek, in his culture and in his time, what he was talking about there was insult. When somebody slapped you on the one cheek, that wasn't really a physical assault. That was more of an insult to your person. And so his words there really mean when someone insults you, allow that to continue to reach out to them. He also says, you know, one of my favorite verses, one of my favorite kind of contexts, there's several. There's, you know, I've got an entire bit about it, is, you know, when he was leaving in Luke chapter 22, he looked at his disciples and he said, "Look, I want you guys to be ready now." The first time he sent them out in Luke 9, he says, "I don't want you to take anything with you. I want you to just trust in my provision." And then in Luke 22, he says, "Hey, this time when you go out, you're going to go out without me. And I want you to go and take provision. I want you to have a money belt. I want you to have things. And the one who has no sword should sell his cloak and buy one." And that sword that he was talking about there was the sword that the Roman soldier wore. This wasn't a hunting implement. This wasn't a cutting tool for the kitchen. This was a defensive tool. And so when people ask me, "John, why do you carry a gun and why do you teach other people to?" in a real sense, I say, because I believe that it is a spiritual and biblical imperative.
I do too. I absolutely do. You know,
I don't do that. You know, I mean, I tell people on the page, and as a business owner, I am a Christian, and that is my worldview, and that integrates, and that's thoroughly a part of everything I do. So if somebody expects me to separate that, I can't do that. That's not okay for me to do. But I teach people of all faiths. I welcome all people to come and train with us, and I'm respectful if you are.
Yeah, and I love that. I love that you do that, because when you're checking out stories, whether it's Ferguson, whether it's Trayvon and Zimmerman, and you know, go through any of these, Eric Garner, Tamir Rice. I mean, we're seeing it all the time.
Sure.
You can be in the middle of a good conversation, and somebody in there's got to say some really messed up stuff, and you're like, "Oh, come on, dude, really?" Like, you've brought the whole level of this. What's that?
I said, it happens all the time.
Yeah, and the fact that you're really kind of trying to, as best you can, to moderate the conversations, at least have other people report, "Hey, you should block this guy," you know, self-moderation. That's fantastic, because that's the best way to get your message out. You don't need to raise your voice. You need to improve your argument. And, you know, if self-defense is something that people can't get their arms around, you know, they can go move somewhere else and not defend themselves. That's fine with me, but, you know, we have a Second Amendment for a reason. It's you know, to protect against tyranny. It's to protect against monsters. You know, like I said, four-legged or two-legged. But I wanted to get back there. How in the world did your Facebook page get so big? You said you've only been doing this for a few years. What happened?
Well, you know, it's funny. On January 1st of 2013, just to give you some context, the Facebook page of Active Self-Protection had 140 fans. On January 2014, 1,000 fans. January 1st this year, 50. We had 89,000 fans, and we're growing at a pace faster than that now. So we'll see what happens. So what made the changes? Well, I mean, I think number one, we just commit to helping people. We committed to providing good content, not the fluff. I don't do clickbait. I don't do naked chicks with guns. It's just not my thing. As a Christian and a pastor, naked women fondling firearms just doesn't help me at all.
I wish I could agree with you on that, but I see where you're coming from. I see where hey, it's not without its charm, but yeah, the clickbait and the ridiculous headlines that are nothing like what you expect when you click on the story. You're like, oh, this is so stupid. But for me, I think in social media, when people act that way, I think they lose their credibility quick, and people stop paying attention. I think consistency to an ideal. I think that serves everybody well in the long term.
Yeah. So, and then the growth came from. I started studying what is it that would be good for people. How can I help people? And then back about February or so, I started looking, and that's when I started looking at the videos. That's when the videos started coming. Now, it really made a huge change in October this year. I mean, a really big change when I started doing the video narrations. When I making those videos and then adding the narrated content so that as people watched it, they could get the lessons. That's made a huge change, and we've probably doubled since October. I'd have to go back and actually look at that. But from when we started, I would say we've probably doubled, because that's really hit a nerve with people. When you can watch it in real life and have somebody who is knowledgeable walk you through the lessons. And then we also do lessons, not only in the audio, but additional lessons in the description. We put some more on our website. And I think what people have responded to more than anything, and why the growth of the page and the growth of the business has been there, is because here's my honest desire. I want to help people. I know a lot of people that go into business because they want to make a lot of money. And don't get me wrong, I got to feed my wife and kids, but I take an approach to things that comes from, again, from my faith, from Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 7. He says, I want you to go to these people, and I want you to be a blessing to them, because in their welfare, you'll find your welfare.
Right.
So I just want to be good to people. I want to help people, and if I can help someone to not get in a fight, that's my first thing, is always de-escalate, escape, or evade if you possibly can. One of my favorite Ed Parker sayings, who's a founder of the art that I study, is that the best way to win a fight is not to be there when it starts.
Yeah, and I saw a meme the other day. I was going to bring it up earlier in the conversation. I forgot. It was, you don't have to attend every argument that you're invited to.
That's right.
Same concept, man. Just you don't die by avoiding a conflict. Like, that's a win, and you get home.
That's right.
Like,
that's right. Yeah. So, I think that's why we've blown up, is that we maintain a professional stance. We honestly try to help people. I think that people get value. In fact, it's really funny. I think I just got another request tonight from a firearms instructor, from an NRA certified firearms instructor, who asked me for permission to use the videos as he begins his classes to show his students what real fights look like, and so they can get some reality. And I think that's been the generator.
And it's so beautiful that we're all connected the way we are when we find our networks. Because my brother, being the NRA certified trainer, and he found these videos, and he shared a couple in some of these gun groups that I'm a part of, and you talk about current issues of the day, and you laugh at the crazies on the left that want to disarm everybody and live in this fantastical world with unicorns and world peace.
Sure,
it just ain't happening on this planet. When he started sharing them with me, what I liked was, like, I would see things happen in this video. I'd be like, okay, what the hell was that? Wow, that was that clerk just blew him away. That was amazing how he defended himself so quick. And then you would, like, reset it, slow it down, you'd pause it, you'd walk. Now watch, he's about to go do this, and then you'd play it, and then he'd walk in. Now look when he reaches toward his waistband. Look at the clerk. The clerk's already reaching under the counter because he noticed a threat. Like, it is very helpful with that narration. I gotta say, if people haven't seen it, they need to. And this would be a good time, John. Tell everybody, where are all of the sites, the best places to see your content and get connected with you? I want to make sure that you have ample time, and we'll do this at the end of the show as well. But where are all of the best ways to check out what you're up to with ASP?
Well, our website is activeselfprotection, all one word.com. So you can go to activeselfprotection.com and find us there. You can, of course, if you just put Active Self Protection in Google, we show up as the first page. If you go on Facebook, facebook.com/Active Self Protection, that's our Facebook page. You'll find us there. You can find us on Twitter. Our Twitter presence is very brand new. And in fact, if any of your fans are interested, this year for the very first time I get to go to SHOT Show, and I'm going to live tweet SHOT Show this year. So all the latest and greatest will be right up on our Twitter page at our Twitter is at @get_ASP. So get ASP. is our Twitter. GET_ASP is the Active Self-Protection Twitter. And there's where you can find us.
Yeah, and it's funny because for us, the YouTube page has been the steady, strong one for a long time, and then last year kind of got the Facebook thing going. The Twitter's always been strong, and it's now there's Instagram. Are we going to do? And yeah, you can share a lot of information about liberty and freedom and self-protection in a meme, just an interesting picture. You just share it, and it's like, oh, that tells me everything I need to know. When you show that Santa Claus is the original NSA member of the month, he's the employee of the year or whatever.
And stand fast, if everybody keeps up with us on the ones that we've got right now, I get, thank goodness, I also get to teach part-time at a local university, and this coming semester I have an intern from their business department coming to do some things for me. So I'd imagine that we will get the Pinterest and the Instagram sides moving forward as well. But, I'm so busy on the Facebook and actually running my life and raising 4 children with my beautiful wife that sometimes things have to slip. It is pretty much a one-man show.
Yeah, trust me, buddy. I know the feeling. It's been a long 3.5 years. It's been very rewarding, but there's a lot that goes into booking all the guests and doing all the radio shows, and then adding all of the verbiage to everything, and then linking it, and then posting it on your website, and adding all the SEO stuff, and it's a lot. For people that don't really get it, it's a lot, and nothing, very few things in this world are accomplished without a great team. And your Aspers, I believe, is the phrase that your crew calls themselves, the Aspers.
Yep.
I mean, it really seems like the community has really latched on here, because we all feel a sense of vulnerability sometimes if we're on a train and we see somebody talking to themselves or looking weird or reaching in their pocket or starting to yell. And you just go, oh crap, and it's that instant, oh crap, I don't know what I do here. Do I pull the strings for the train to stop? Do I attack this guy? Do I grab my my girlfriend and go to the other side of the train? Like, what do I do? And it's at oh crap moment that you only protect yourself through training. That's the best way to avoid the fight. You got to see it coming in advance. You see a couple people coming in the wrong way, cross the street. If just all of it.
Yeah, to me it's two things. Training, you're right, and let me define training. Training is not sitting in front of your computer screen. Training is getting under the instruction of a competent instructor, whether that's firearms training with a competent instructor, martial arts training, whatever you want to call that, empty-handed, combatives, defensive tactics, whatever. That's operating under instruction. Now, also though, doing well in an encounter requires experience. They say that if you can get a soldier through his first battle, that he'll freak out in his first battle, and his first battle is terrible. But if you can get him through that, then he has enough experience that he'll start to be able to do well. So what active self-protection does for people is it gives them experiences. You watch that video, and it provides you get to live vicariously and watch that experience, that you've seen this again and again and again, that with training, you can be ready to protect yourself. And so that's the valuable component that we add, is every day at 9 a.m. and on 9 a.m. Mountain Standard, we're on Arizona time. So 9 a.m. Arizona time and 6 p.m. I put up a new video on the Facebook page and on my website that, and it links on Twitter as well, that says, hey, here's a new experience for you to have. That's a pretty valuable experience for people.
Yeah, it's people that have extreme phobias. I have a psychology degree. I haven't done anything with it, but when I volunteered and took some of these courses,
for analyze guests on your show.
Yeah, buddy, I got a dossier on you a mile long. Can't wait to release this one at 9 a.m. Mountain time. No, I'm just kidding. But when people have extreme phobias, just take arachnophobia with spiders is a very basic example. There are different strategies that you can use to lessen the freak out factor. Like you said with the soldiers, I was listening to Tim Tebow used to say that what's the best way you get loosened up for a game, or what do you do to shake the nerves? He's like, I like getting hit. I need to get a first hit and then I'm cool. It's like, why would a quarterback want to get hit? It's like, well, then that reminds you, I'm in a game, and then it's just everything falls aside, and it's like, then you just play. You go in autopilot mode. And, with arachnophobia or something, it's like, first I'm going to show you a silhouette of a spider in a different color. Now I'm going to show you a still picture. Now here's a moving video of a spider. Now here's a here's a cage, here's a not an aquarium, what was that, terrarium? I don't even know.
Yeah, terrarium, there you go.
Whatever those are. Here's a box with a spider in it. Now we're going to take it out of the... It's like slowly they work you through, kind of going, okay, this isn't as bad. I'm still breathing. It hasn't hurt me yet. Okay, cool. And then all of those start to become normalized to the point where at least you're aware of what's going on and you're not freaking out. Like, you said, just get your first fight under your belt. And I want to get back to what you said with patterns. Watching all these videos now, what types of patterns have you seen emerge? And before I forget, too, I definitely want to get your answer on patterns, but selfishly, I want to ask also if you have any home protection advice. And if you've noticed things in your neighborhood, what ideas do you have to keep your community safe? But first, what kind of patterns are you seeing develop?
Yeah. Well, it really does depend on the situation that you're looking at. But I'd say really a couple that stand out to me again and again and again is the first one is situational awareness, and what that means is being aware of your surroundings. That Colonel Cooper back in the day talked about a color code of awareness. That most people live in condition white, which is oblivious, and what you see with that today is people with their faces in their cell phones.
Right.
And they don't know what's going on around them, and they don't have any clue what's in the universe. Now, condition yellow instead, he would talk about the four colors that he would call as white, yellow, orange, and red. White is oblivious, don't live in that. In yellow, you're just aware of what's going on around you. You can see things that happen. Your eyes are up, your ears are listening, you got your earbuds out, and you're paying attention. When something goes wrong, when something's not right, you go to condition orange. And in condition orange, your awareness has said something is wrong in your environment. And rather than just go, oh, that's interesting, and then go back to nothing, you go and investigate that. What's going on? Now, that could be anything from, man, the smoke alarm went off. Why is that? Something's not right. Or my nose, I smelled something that's weird. Or, I heard something going on. Well, now I got to go and investigate that. And then condition red is when a threat comes and is actually actively threatening you, and you have to do something about that to protect yourself. So the first thing that we talk about is situational awareness. When people are aware, they survive at much, 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 much higher rates than unaware people. If you were to go and watch, I think right now we've got about the best 200 videos so far on the website and on the Facebook page. And when people are not aware, they die at regular rates. They get hurt, they get mugged, they get are victimized like crazy. But people who are aware, they see it coming, they are much, much, much safer. So the first thing I tell people, if you had one skill to learn, it's to be aware of your surroundings and recognize that in our world you are prey, and you're prey for bad guys. So what do prey do? If you ever watch a deer or you watch a rabbit, something that knows it can get eaten by anything, they're always paying attention to what's going on around them. The second thing that I see is what I call, now this is something that I've seen that I have never seen anybody else do, so I say it's kind of my copyrighted stuff, but it's not copyrighted, but you get my point, right?
Right.
Is called transitional spaces. And transitional spaces are spaces that people don't stay in, but they go into and out of, that they are only in for a moment. And spaces like that, I mean gas stations, convenience stores, doorways, hallways, alleyways, places, garages, parking lots, where you just go in and out. And why that's so important is that bad guys use those. They know that you're going to get choked into a doorway when you're coming into the store. They know that when you get into your car, you're going to hesitate for a moment. They know that, they can get in and out of a convenience store very, very fast, a gas station or whatever. And so those places are places where it is much more likely for danger to happen to you. Same thing with fast food restaurants or walk-up restaurants. Any of these spaces that are transitional spaces are more dangerous. And so you have to be extra aware and paying attention to what's going on around you in those transitional spaces, because they're more likely to be damaging to you.
I was at a drive-through over in Los Angeles, pretty much around the corner, and it's a weird one. It's like this weird L-shaped strip mall, and then there's a fast food place on the other corner, so it's kind of like, I don't know, on the opposite angles of a square, if you will. And the way that it is, you drive around the outside of it, and then you make your order, and then you pull around, and you are up against a retaining wall. There's a car in front of you. There's a car behind you. You are absolutely pinned in. And I saw this creep start walking up, And, okay, what would you call that situation? Yellow. I'm aware. My eyes are up. I said, okay, that guy's really ragged. He's looking all around the place like he's about to do, like when a kid's ready to do something bad. He's looking around and he's coming right for me. Okay. I'm pretty much boxed in here, so, what do I have? My dad always told me, he's like, if you're ever in a bad situation, don't forget, you're in a 2,000-pound self-defense vehicle if you have to go. Right. Don't forget that. And I was like, okay, well, it's not that point, so I just got my mace and held it in my hand, and I was cool, calm, and collected, and the guy came up and was trying to bum money, and no, I'm sorry, sir. You got nope, sorry about that, got nothing. And he left, but had that person become belligerent, whatever, I could have given a quick pepper spray burst and then gotten out of the situation with my vehicle.
Sure.
But it's that situational
and of course,
awareness.
I always tell people, if you're in the car, lock the doors. Never get in a vehicle with unlocked. Of course, the doors are unlocked when you get in, but the second you get in the car, lock your doors. Right. Every carjacking in America happens with an unlocked car door.
That's a very simple. That's a very simple thing to remember. Filling up your gas, in an unfamiliar part of town, and somebody's watched it come in, and waiting for that moment when you're ready to, you put the nozzle from your car back in, and you're making. I mean, that's when they're running. They're waiting for you. They're timing it. They're going, all right, now's a good time. Get in there and lock the door. Like it's really hard to bust through. Through a window. If they aim a gun at you, what would you do if someone aimed a gun at you in that point? You're inside with a locked door.
I mean, there's so many variables. It just really depends. Somebody wants my car, and it's just my car. Well, I'm not going to fight somebody over my car. The chances are slim, though. If somebody wants to shoot you dead and take your car, they're just going to murder you and take your car. They're using almost certainly the firearm as what we call an intimidation tool. They want you to do what they want you to do. Now, if I'm not in the car, somebody points a gun at me and says, I'm taking your car, and my family's not in it, my wife and kids aren't in it, there's fine, man. It's all yours. Hands up, get it, just back away, run like heck. I'm not going to get in a deadly force encounter over a $500 or $1,000 insurance deductible. I'm just not. But there's, depending on the situation, you could hit the gas, get out of there. You got a half a second, you're gone, and now what is he going to do?
Right.
Again, if I've got family in the car, I'm going to fight you to the death. You want to take my car and my 9-year-old is in there, you're a dead man or I'm a dead man. One of us is dying today.
Yeah, I saw that one video that you shared. It was in, I believe it was a South American country, and there was a courtyard, and somebody came in and was confronting the guy, and there's like a 5-year-old daughter just walking around, and then they go after the daughter, and the guy's like just ran and left her there. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, crazy. I do.
What the?
I do, and when you're not prepared, when you don't have the experience, when you don't have your attitude, your skills, and your plan ready, that's what we call, with active self-protection, ASP. So we talk about attitude, skills, and plan. And when we talk about people having their ASP covered, ASP covered, that means that their attitude is up to this task, their skills are ready, and their plan is in place. And we call people Aspers because they're active self-protectors. They're ready to go. Their attitude, skills, and plan are up to the task.
You talked about those choke. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So when you don't do that, you freak out, man. When you freak out, you do stupid things.
You either do something really stupid, or you freeze. You're a deer in headlights, or you do the wrong thing. There's very little in between where you just happen to accidentally get it right. And you got you piqued my interest with those choke points, because the way that the buildings are set up in my particular neighborhood, there's condominiums with 6 to 10 units per building. There's a back driveway with the dumpster, and then there's a laundry line area. There's carports, and then at the end there's a laundry room. Okay. And the woman that was beaten severely into a coma, to the point where, all the rumors were she had died until, we had to get some better information. Apparently she's out of a coma. I'm still trying to figure, this is weeks later. It's just so weird, and we haven't seen a lot of that stuff over here lately. But apparently she was found in the laundry room, and it looked like a crime scene. But it's a locked laundry room, and it's like just trying to figure out what the heck happened. So if you have a spot like that, and there was a recent attack, like what would you be doing if you walk outside your building, you just take a few steps from the building over to the carport area, you got that locked door, you open it, you unlock it, you go in, you do your laundry, you come out, you take it back upstairs. that's a choke point. I think that was laundry rooms was one of the first things you had mentioned.
Sure.
What would you recommend people pay attention to in that particular choke point?
Well, you're looking for things that are out of place. You know, when you see somebody that's loitering that you don't recognize, or somebody that's too familiar, or somebody that looks like they're looking around, you know, criminals love to do they're paying attention too because they don't want to get caught. So, and listen, I always recommend, you know, one of my favorite sayings is by Clint Smith, who was the founder of Thunder Ranch, and he says that armed people kill unarmed people with monotonous regularity. And
say that one more time. Say that one more time. What is that?
He says armed people kill unarmed people with monotonous regularity.
Yeah.
So when a fight starts, if you're not the one that's armed, and he is, he'll kill you almost every time. Unless you got to be good if you're not going to fall victim to that. So I always recommend that people carry the most potent force multiplication tool on them that they possibly can. And so that depends upon your municipality. I mean, I got fans in the UK where, you know, nobody can carry anything. You can't carry a knife on you. You can't carry a pepper spray. It's all illegal. You're in California, you know, you can't even look at a bad guy with mean eyes. But, you know,
it is horrible.
You got to carry the most potent thing that you can. Now, if I was you guys, again, from a political perspective, you're just hoping and praying that Peruta versus San Diego holds. If Peruta versus San Diego holds in the Ninth Circuit, which it almost certainly will, it'll probably get sent up to the Supreme Court, which it should stand in the Supreme Court, and then California will become a shall-issue state like it should have been forever.
Yeah, the May issue is just ridiculous, and
May issue equals won't issue.
Yeah, and it doesn't make any sense. You want the good guys to be able to protect because when seconds count, police are only minutes away. You know, police don't stop crimes; they clean up crime scenes. You know, that's why
they don't carry guns to protect you; they carry guns to protect themselves.
Damn straight.
And I don't blame them for that.
And the only way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. You know, it's very common sense, but.
You know, Clint says armed people kill unarmed people with monotonous regularity.
Right.
So I recommend that people, legally, of course, I never recommend that somebody breaks their laws in their local municipalities' codes, but that they carry the most potent force multiplication tool on them that they can.
Pepper spray, by chance, maybe.
Yeah, for me and for my family, I carry a gun every day, you know, and it goes with me everywhere I go. And it's not a magic talisman, but it's an emergency device. It's the same reason I have a fire extinguisher in the kitchen, same reason I have a spare tire in the car.
Exactly, just in case.
When you need it right here, and you need it right now. So if you can't carry a firearm, I love, you know, that you're carrying a pepper spray. I just would recommend for people to make sure that they get the right ones. I only recommend 2 brands. They're the only ones I know that are very, very high quality, and that they get the major capsaicinoids. Everybody wants to talk about Scoville units. Everybody wants to talk about percent of OC. None of that stuff matters. It's major capsaicinoids. And the ones that I recommend are either Saber Red or Fox Labs. Those are both so nasty. If you're ever dumb enough to go through getting sprayed with them, it's a half-hour ride to hell.
Wow. And I'm glad you said that, because Saber is exactly what I just stocked up on for me and my neighbors.
Yeah, I carry a Saber Red every day, and that's a potent, nasty, wicked, filthy tool. Now, it's not a great tool against a deadly force, but it's better than nothing. And I'll tell you, I've used it twice against dogs, and dogs hate it.
Oh, really? You've had to use it on dogs?
Oh, man. Yeah, it doesn't work on everybody. The thing with pepper spray is that about 10% of the population is immune to it, and there's really no rhyme or reason to that.
Oh, that is so weird, because people are not immune to bullets.
Right. No one's immune to bullets.
Superman.
Right? You are not bulletproof.
Right. No, because when those 3 pit bulls were in my neighborhood and came out, man, I was ill prepared. There was an old woman screaming, her arms up in the air, and she was crying, and I just ran out to help. Flip flops and a phone. I didn't even have pepper spray. I didn't have a knife. I didn't have a bat. I didn't have a gun. I had nothing. You know, that was the dumbest thing.
I've used my pepper spray against dogs, and very effective. And you know, the thing that I like about that, you got dogs fighting, you want to get rid of them, and like, what are we going to do? Just hose them both down, even your own dog. It'll be okay. Half an hour from now, the dog will be over it, and everybody will be fine. It doesn't injure. It just hurts like nothing else in your life ever hurts.
And I have one of my buddies. He went through training. He was in the service, and he's like, "Yep, We had to go through that. We had to get sprayed down, and it is hell, brother. It is hell. Now I'm like, well, okay, that's the point. You wanna stun, you wanna surprise, you wanna then flee the area. You don't need to keep going, just enough to distract them to get out of there. You know, with those choke points and stuff. So get your best force multiplication tool on you. If you can't carry a pepper spray, whatever, a knife, a good defensive knife is great if you can. Even something like a short stick, like a Kubotan or something like that you can get trained with. Any kind of force multiplier on you is a good thing. Right. Anything. Well, how do you feel about stun guns? I prefer, you know, there's different words, and so people use words interchangeably sometimes. Oh, okay. Technically, when you're talking a stun gun, you're talking a volt suppressor. That's somebody that you put on someone. It's a contact tool that you put on somebody, and it causes pain. Those are it's a contact weapon, and so those are not my preference. But I am a fan of the taser. So the taser is the one that shoots darts. Oh, okay. And you know that one it operates on something different. It's not a pain tool. It is it incapacitates muscle groups, and so if you get over a 12-inch spread, it overrides someone's muscle control. And the civilian version of the taser, not the X26 that the cops carry, but the civilian version, it rides them for about 30 to 45 seconds till the battery dies. And so it's designed to be fired and dropped. Whoa! The battery burns out in that short a time. It's shooting that much juice through it, huh? It's shooting a ton of juice. And again, if you get popped with it, and you get both barbs in you, you're done. It overrides your muscle control, and that's the ones you see if you ever watch an episode of Cops, and they pop some guy and he goes stiff as a board and falls over. That's why it's pretty bad. And the neat thing too, I'm not a rep for taser. I don't make any money on them or whatever. Not yet. But if you buy a taser and you hold on to the receipt, if you use it and you file a police report that you tased some guy, they'll replace it for free. What brand is that? Taser. That's the Taser brand. They're out of Scottsdale, Arizona, and they're the ones that fire the darts. And if you buy one, you keep the receipt. If you ever use it, you file a police report that, hey, this guy assaulted me and I tased him. You send that to Taser and they will send you a new one. Wow, okay. That's the opposite of you're involved in a shooting for some reason to defend your life, and then your gun is confiscated as evidence. Oh, great. I've just been attacked. Sure, right. Take my gun away. That makes a hell of a lot of sense. Hope that doesn't happen again tomorrow with retaliation from his crew. It's just I just don't understand where people are coming from with that. That's very interesting because I don't like the stun guns because you have to reach out and touch someone. And if you're at that point, you're grappling, you're wrestling, and man, you've already lost that avoid the fight to win the fight thing and keeping distance. However, I really like the rattlesnake tail effect that it has. When you zap that thing, those mothers are loud. They are. If I were trying to prey on somebody and someone caught wind, looked over their shoulder and turned around like, wait a minute, I know what you're doing, and started blasting a stun gun, I wouldn't run toward that person. That might buy me a couple of seconds to get out of there. Maybe. You have any thoughts on that? Depends on the bad guy, Brian. I think a lot of those times, those guys, they know when someone knows what they're doing and when someone doesn't. And if you're posturing, the reality is, if he knows what he's doing, he'd take that stun gun away from you pretty fast. I prefer tools with distance. The more distance I can keep between you and me, the better off I am. And again, where I am and in my world, what my preference always is, if I knew a fight was coming, I wouldn't be there. If I had to get in a fight that I knew was coming, I'd bring a rifle, and as many friends had rifles as I could find. Distance. But because that's not, real feasible, I recommend a handgun, and I carry one, and I recommend them. If you can't, then you just got to make do with what you got. But I always recommend, even if you do have a handgun, that you need training on empty-handed skills. You need training on hand-to-hand defense and being able to get out of there from wherever situation you find yourself. I saw another video. I'm not sure. At this point, I'm just assuming, John, you've seen every video ever. So stop me if I'm sounding ridiculous here, because I might be correct and I might be way off. But I don't know how you could have missed this one. It was the guy that's getting tased, and then he starts rhyming and starts singing on the ground, and he starts like speaking in tongues, and then he gets up and he runs away with all this insane pot. Did you happen to see? I don't know if I'm explaining it properly or not. Is that ringing a bell? I've seen several like that, man. A couple things, again,
nothing works all the time. You even shoot somebody with a handgun or even a rifle, it's not gonna stop them every time. And particularly these guys, drug-induced euphoria,
right.
Particularly methamphetamines,
PCP, meth,
yeah, man, you can get high as a kite. The other one that's out there that most people don't realize is what they call excited delirium. They talk about it being ED, but not that ED. It's not like you can't perform sexually.
Can't take Viagra for excited delirium. Wait, was that?
Right. But if somebody's in excited delirium, I've seen videos of 5 or 6 police officers holding a guy down, but he's got excited delirium and he's strong enough to fight all of them off. It's like super soldier serum, and nothing works all the time, man. And that's why you got to be ready. Today may be your day.
What is your take on all of these? Unfortunately, we had some testimony, but it's kind of he said, Trayvon and Zimmerman. When it comes to Mike Brown and Darren Wilson, he didn't have a body camera on him. The police officer didn't. And I personally want to see body cameras on every police officer to protect them. Because if Darren Wilson did nothing wrong, his whole life has been ruined. His career's gone. Now he's in hiding. Over what? Sure. Doing his job? Or if he did do something wrong, I'd love to throw him in jail. But I don't know because I wasn't there. And then you see Eric Garner get choked out, killed in New York. You see Tamir Rice. They fly right up on him and shoot him within about 2 seconds. John Crawford in the Walmart in Beaver Creek, Ohio. He's playing with a toy rifle he picked up off the shelf, and he's just blown away. They could have done something different. And, of course, the worst one, Kelly Thomas, that was murdered by the Fullerton, California police on camera. He's just begging for his dad's life as the cop puts on a latex glove and says, "You see these fists? They're getting ready to F you up." And they beat him to a bloody pulp and kill him on camera. And they went to trial and they were acquitted somehow. What is your take on all of these videos? Is this stuff happening all the time, but we're only recently being able to see it? Or do you think the police are becoming more militarized to the point where we can't always trust them to be calm, cool, and collected and make good decisions under stress anymore? Because I don't really feel the comfort that I used to seeing a police officer. Now I'm a little on edge, unlike I've ever been. What do you make of it?
I kind of take the opposite tack, frankly. I got a lot of friends who are cops, and it's like anything else. I was in the Navy for 8 years, and the vast majority of sailors, 99.9% of sailors, are fantastic human beings and doing a hard job for low pay and crappy hours. But it's that one drunken sailor that gets on the news.
Right.
And makes us all look bad.
If it bleeds, it leads. Yeah, the dumbest thing ever, that's what's going to get the attention. I do understand that.
And so what I think is really coming up is a few things. Number one, the 24-hour news cycle anymore. It's a 140-character, 5-minute news cycle. And things spread like wildfire, and you don't get out of a video sometimes or out of a sound bite. And there's certainly bad cops out there. Let's not beat around the bush. There are cops out there who are abusing power, who are terrible human beings. Now, I think that the psychological evaluations and the training and all that stuff, for the most part, weeds that out. I can tell you the number of times that my friends have come home from shift with lumps on them because of putting up with way too much. Now, I'm a huge fan of every bad cop needs to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. I'm also still of the mindset that the vast majority of police officers in America are great Americans, and they are Second Amendment supporters, and they're conservative folk for the most part, and they are doing a really crappy job. And think about this, Brian. If you dealt with meth heads for 12 hours a day,
I couldn't imagine,
for 50 hours a week for 5 years, you'd probably jump the shark eventually too.
I couldn't imagine doing it. I have my psychology degree, and I volunteered at a 24-hour crisis center, and I won't bore you with the details now. I've talked about it on previous shows, but when a woman's been in 26 times and she goes back to her abuser with the child there, and it's like, well, what are we even here for? It's mind-boggling that we can give you a safe house, we can give you a phone, we can give you food pantry, we can give your children clothes, we can even give you a part-time temporary job right here, and you can live here for free and get your act together. Like, get safe. Come on, we'll help you. Yeah. Well, okay, well, let me think about it. And then when it's like, you're the new kid and you look over and you're like, what was that? Yeah, she's been in here about 20-something times in the past couple months. You're like, okay, I can't do this. I can't do this to myself. Like, I'm pulling out my hair for her. Just, I wish I could make a decision for her. I know it's more complicated, but just leave the threat. No, I couldn't imagine being a police officer, and I know that it's a terribly difficult job. I absolutely understand that.
Just this last week here in Arizona, we had an officer in Flagstaff a couple hours north of us, and he had a body camera on, and you watch him, and that guy was just doing the best he could, and he went way above and beyond trying to help this couple who's having a domestic issue, and the response to that was the guy pulled a gun. He pulled a single action .22 caliber revolver and shot that officer several times in the head and then took his own life. So, at some level you say, wait a minute, if I'm going to be a cop, now the average cop makes around $50,000 a year, it's not a bad paying job, but given the stresses that you have to undergo, it's not a great paying job.
Right.
And they watched that video too. Every police department in America saw that video because, hey, this is what you're up against, guys. Stay safe. And they just want to go home to their wives or their husbands. They just want to go home to their kids. They want to do a good job. They're sacrificing for safety of people. And again, I say that within the context that there are bad cops, and every bad cop needs to be rooted out. There needs to be no, hiding of that by other departments. And
the thin blue line.
I think that's worse on the East Coast than the West Coast, quite frankly.
Any particular reason?
I think culture. I think it's just older. The East Coast culture and the West Coast culture are very different. I know cops on both coasts. And the West Coast departments that I know of and hear of, they're brutal about self-policing. I mean, it's horrible. It's like it's really bad, to the point where you can't step out of line. And if you tell a dirty joke in the precinct, you're going to get written up and fired.
Oh, I saw. I think in Seattle, someone said you're going to get yourself stop running, boy. You're going to get yourself shot. And now they're getting in trouble for saying "boy." It's like, what?
Yeah. So,
I don't know.
And when they watch that video, it makes them jumpy. It makes them not want to trust people. And man, it's
because he asked him. He said, "Do you have any weapons on you? Do you have any weapons?" No. Right. It's just cold. It's just cold. It's like, man. And he asked multiple times. I just saw that today, and it just made me sick watching that cop get killed. It was horrible.
Well, and it makes you think, man. I said the one thing that I was grateful for, as sad as it was that there was no racial angle. That we didn't need something else to inflame the racial tensions in America, especially between police and citizens, and that one didn't have any. So and my heart goes out to his family, of course.
Oh, it's terrible. I mean, I've been through Flagstaff multiple times. I'm familiar. It actually has a weird vibe, in my opinion. But anyway, I digress. My heart goes out to him too. It's just horrible, and you could tell this cop was really going out of his way to try to help the situation, and you could tell that he didn't trust this guy toward the end. He's like, no, let me pat you down, and it was horrible. And not all cops are bad, not all cops are good, not all whites are racist, not all blacks are criminals, and all these things. It's like you can't judge anybody based on anything until you get to know them. Unfortunately, police have about a split second, and you and me and anybody else listening to the show might be on a train or on a bus or at a mall where a shooting occurs. I don't know. I mean, I guess. What kind of general advice? I got the choke points thing and just being situationally aware. Don't live in the white, go to the yellow, and just listen and watch. And if anything's... And there's a difference between paying attention and being paranoid. Don't get me wrong. I understand that. I don't. You're not saying that. But what kind of other good day-to-day tips and advice for people in regular situations might you have for people, John?
I always tell people that you pretty much give what you get. And the opposite of that in reality, you get what you give. And so I tell people I've never met a stranger in my life. I'm friendly to everybody. And I don't do that with ulterior motives, but, generally speaking, if you are looking out for others, generally speaking, you'll get looked out for. So I tell people, listen, I don't live life in paranoia. I don't live life in fear. I train all the time, and I don't want to ever get into a kind of fight, but I always tell folks the more prepared you are, then the fewer problems you're likely to have. I mean, when's the last time you heard about a fifth-degree black belt getting in a fist fight? Well, they train so much and they're prepared so much that they know how to stay away from them. So get trained. I tell people, get trained, get all the training that you can, learn and grow. And yeah, that takes time. It takes an investment of money and time and effort and focus. But when you do, then you can be kind. I love the fact that, especially as a pastor, I can be very kind to people. And I can put up with a lot, and I can put myself in situations that some people may feel very, very uncomfortable with, knowing that if I had to, I could get out of them. So, the homeless guy that walks up to you, or a domestic situation. And in fact, I was just dealing with one of those today, where I had a domestic that could have gotten a little scary. And, I was able to just step in there and with kindness and with love and with goodness and kind of mellow it out. And that's a good thing. Of course, like you say, awareness is always a big deal. And I think it's really wise to look around your circumstances and to make a plan to say, okay, wait a minute, what are my vulnerabilities? So your life and your building, whatever, is different than my world. But what is it in your world? So sitting down and actually looking through it and saying, where am I most vulnerable? Well, what can I do to make that less vulnerable? Especially with respect to your family and making a family plan.
So that would be like house protection, and if there's anything around the perimeter of the property, if there's fences, or if there's different security cameras or lighting or window bars, or
That's home, but I also think vehicle. I think your office. I think that the places that you frequent, you got to think through those things. So the more you've got in advance the attitude and the skills and the plan, then it makes your life a little bit easier. I talk to folks all the time. I drive a truck, and it's not because I hunt. I like to get out in the woods, but I drive a 4-wheel drive truck with ground clearance, and I do so in my daily life with a reason, because curbs are a suggestion. And if I had to get around,
exactly.
Listen, and I know in California, you all have to drive Priuses, but
I have a Chevy Blazer actually. I can't stand little cars with low clearance. I don't understand why people get these $90,000 Maseratis or something, and they got about a 1/4-inch clearance from between you and the ground. It's like, buddy, what are you doing? I've been a truck guy my whole life, an S10 now, Blazer, but.
Yeah, well, and having that little bit of ground clearance is something that I chose in a vehicle because I said, listen, if I got to get, I want to be able to get. So, situations like that. What about your office? You look around and you go, wait a minute, or your place of business, wherever you're going for work. What are my vulnerabilities here, and how can I minimize them? If we had an active shooter situation in the building, what do we do with that? How am I going to live for that? For that, I would recommend people Google search. Reddy Houston put out a 5-minute video called "Run, Hide, Fight." And that's a great video for anybody. You don't have to be a martial artist or a firearms enthusiast to get a good bit in a workplace environment out of the run, hide, fight mentality.
Man, I've seen some ridiculous stuff, though, coming over from the left about the way to protect. I just saw this a couple days ago. I forget what school it was. Is that if there's an active shooter, they suggested that every kid get a can of peas so they can throw cans at a. I mean, what in the? I mean, are these peas? Can you put yourself in the minds of the demented to help me understand where are these people coming from? That how do they not get it?
Here's the funny part. I'll bet you money, Brian, that the person that came up with that actually is not a liberal loon.
A lawyer? Who else? A lawyer?
No. Here's the thing. And I'm looking for options now. Let me tell you. Today I took my 12-year-old daughter. I was a chaperone on her trip with her 6th grade class today, and I showed up on my kid's campus, elementary school, and I was really grateful because I walked in the door to sign in as a guest, put my little visitor badge on, and there standing there was an officer whom I know, and his name is Joel, and he works for the Washington Elementary School District where my kids go to school. And there he was in full battle rattle. Now, by that I don't mean he was in riot gear, but I mean he had his vest on and he was armed and he was ready to go, and he had his badge on and the whole 9 yards. And I walked up and I shook his hand. I said, Joel, thanks for being here today. And he was like, yeah, absolutely, John. Nice to see you, man. And we know each other. And I'm grateful for him. Why? Because my kids are safer with an armed person on campus than without.
Yeah. And that's such a great job, too, for veterans returning. How do you get them job training? How do you get them placed in this economy where they're trying to let 15 million illegals, here, you guys take the jobs. It's like, all right, well, what's left? Now, if the 1% grabbed them all, the good ones. But, I mean, that's such a great way to give them real – I mean, that would just be a fantastic way to take a soldier and say, hey, you know, continue protecting and defending us. Here's a school. Can you stand guard and run this? Yep. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
But in many school districts, like I was not, you know, here in Arizona, this is a crazy thing. In Arizona, it is a misdemeanor to carry a firearm on a school campus if you're not a sworn law enforcement officer, which I'm not. So it's illegal for me to carry a firearm, even though I'm certainly one of the ones that you'd want, you know, a good guy, well-trained, and obviously training others, but I'm not allowed. So I didn't. Now, in California, where you're at, actually, if you have a CCW, you're allowed to carry a firearm on a school campus, as crazy as that sounds.
Well, yeah, because the permits themselves are pots of gold at the end of rainbows held by the leprechauns.
Depends on the county you're in. Up in Northern California, you can get them. Depends on the county. Depends on the sheriff.
This would be Los Angeles County.
Unfortunately.
You're out of luck.
You're out of luck.
Yeah.
Yeah, wah. But, you know, so when you don't have that, I actually teach, and I do it in local schools here. I've done it in elementary schools, and I do it for school teachers. I've done it for teachers in training, that I teach active shooter response for unarmed people. And one of the things that we teach is swarm tactics. And, you know, if I've got a classroom full of fourth graders and a teacher that knows what they're doing, and if I can actually teach the teachers, you could take an armed gunman down. You know, that poor classroom full of kids at Sandy Hook Elementary, if they were well trained and their teacher was prepared, they might have been able to survive. And again, I'm not blaming any of them for their deaths, not at all. It's a tragedy, of course, but
we learn. We try to learn from it. We try to learn from it is the point. I think you're going after. And
rather than standing there, and so, am I a fan of, you know, throwing cans of SpaghettiOs at guys? No, I'd prefer there be, armed men with bad intentions, ready to stop those threats in a big fat hurry. But with nothing else available now, not everybody doing that, but in conjunction with a strategy of ambush, of counter ambushes, it can actually be effective. And all you got to do is make him think for just a second until you can get 5 or 6 people on him and take him down and hold him there and until the cops show up. But you got to be ready to hold him until the cops show up. You got the reality is you got 8 minutes.
8 minutes
is an eternity.
8 minutes.
Yeah. Well, from the start of the attack, from the start of a bad guy attacking till somebody gets on the horn is typically, you know, till they get the first 911 call is typically 1 minute to 3 minutes. And then you got to get them there. And it's not just getting the cops there. They got to stage up and get in the building. And most modern departments now, they're not, they don't wait for SWAT. It's 2 men and a go. But, you know, you got a big school, you know, you don't know where he is. When those first 2 guys show up, they may make a wrong turn or whatever. Your best bet is usually 8 minutes once the active shooting starts.
Jeez, you know, we're starting to wrap up the show here, and I wanted to get to this though. I wanted to find out what is the strangest video that you've seen so far. What would you say would be? Yeah, I don't know, the craziest video that you've ever seen in the past year and a half since you've been doing this. You know, with the commentary.
You know, there've been some doozies.
Or a couple. Give me a couple.
The guy that abandons his little girl in the courtyard is a big one for me. You go, what in the world? Why would you do that? You know, right. I've seen each one is so unique in its own way. Man, if I had to pick one out, boy, I wish you'd given me some time to think about that. I could have, but man,
that's what I like to do.
Kidding, right?
Here's what you needed to be prepared. You needed active self-protection mentally, because I ambush you like a ninja. See,
like a ninja.
I got you at a choke point.
I would say probably the craziest one that I've seen was an armed robbery in Thailand that ended up with about 5 good guys beating the crap out of a bad guy. And that one was crazy because it should have gone all kinds of wrong. None of them were any good at what they were doing, but they had their attitude ready and they were ready to rock. And you know, they ended up doing nothing right and winning anyways.
Despite themselves,
despite themselves. And so, you know, some guys just throw their hands up in the air and say, "Well, the heck with it, then I'm not going to train." But you know, the more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war. So I train anyways.
The more you sweat in peace, the more you. What was it?
The less you bleed in war.
There we go. The less you bleed in war, and I like to say there's no need to be scared when you're prepared. You know, it's just,
Amen.
It's just like, why bother freaking out? It's like I'm as prepared as I can be right now. I know my fight or flight from my football days. I didn't serve in the military, but if you ever played football, some people have said it's a similar experience, getting barked at
Sure.
and broken down, and physically, all that jazz. But I guess then let me ask you this final question, because I hope, John, I hope you had a good time here, because I would really like to bring you back and
Sure.
just continue this, because just the concept of awareness and protection and prepping, and it's all hand in hand. Just you got to know how to take care of yourself. So we would definitely like to have you back. I don't know how, what platform. I don't know if we want to discuss specific videos, if we just we'll figure that out off air. But the last question I really wanted to get to here was, do you ever have any concerns, any qualms, any reservations about giving any specific advice? Like, I don't know. I guess for liability sake,
lawyer,
right?
and so I never give legal advice. And of course, that's not, if anybody ever takes anything that I say as legal advice, it's not, because it won't stand up in a court of law until you take it from a lawyer. Do I worry about giving people specific advice? Well, I mean, I don't give people specific advice in non-live training environments. And there's a reason for that, because I can stand behind it. And I vet curriculum. I make sure that the advice that I give is good and sound, and is not just my own thoughts, but runs through some of the best in the industry today. And so, when I give people advice, I only give advice that I think is really actually helpful for them and is real world. So do I worry about it? I mean, listen, if I worried about it, I wouldn't give advice in any kind of endeavor. I mean, in my life as a pastor, I deal with people's souls all day long. It's the biggest questions in the world. What happens when I die, and what's going on in my marriage? And do I worry about giving bad advice there? No, because I know the standards by which I give the advice. With self-defense, do I worry about the advice that I give? No, because I know the standards by which I give advice. So I'm okay with it.
I hear you on that. I hear you completely. And, I try to stop short. I mean, we talk about civil liberties and freedom, and, not really fans of, we do a lot of politics over here, but we're
Sure.
neither fans of Republicans or Democrats. The only thing less useful than a Republican is a Democrat, in my opinion. I think it's all just a game. But I really think that we all need to be prepared and need to be alert and aware of what certain legislators are trying to do to strip us of our civil liberties. Whether that's our Second
Absolutely.
Amendment protections to defend ourselves, free speech. You got Charlie Hebdo, and you got the Pope saying, putting restrictions on it. It gets very interesting. Everything is political, and there's never been a generation of people more offended than ours. But it all ties into us trying to wake people up, make them aware of the situations, make them aware of some of the political pitfalls that are out there, some of the, the same thing, the situational awareness. We talk about prepping. Yep. And just getting it yourself in a good frame of mind so that you can help your neighbors and your family and your community.
Right.
You can't do that if you're in debt. You can't do that if you're on the wrong path and you're wasting your life on X, Y, Z. And it all comes from the same place. It all comes from a place of love and hoping that people are going to get their act together and hopefully be a benefit to society instead of a dirtball that's going to drag things down and make things worse for people. And that kind of is the eternal struggle. And who knows, maybe I'll bring you back to talk some spirituality, religion, and philosophy for all I care. But I'll tell you what, I legitimately mean this, John. I've gotten a lot out of the videos that I've seen. I'm very glad that my brother started sharing them my way, and I'm glad that we could introduce you and what you're doing with ASP, with ASP, to our audience as well. So in the last 30 seconds or so, can you just remind people where they can check out your videos and everything and stay connected with you online?
You bet. Find us on the web at activeselfprotection.com or facebook.com/activeselfprotection, or on Twitter at @get_ASP.
Excellent. Well, hey, John, we will do this again. I really appreciated your time tonight. It's valuable information that you're bringing to us. And, yeah, I couldn't agree with you anymore on this Agree to Disagree show. It's agree to agree. Just be aware, everybody, and just try to look out after one another. So, John, we'll do this again. You have a great night, sir. We'll be talking again soon,
You too,
all right?
Brian.
Take care, buddy.
All right, bye-bye.
Go check him out. Seriously, the videos are great. The commentary is great. It's an amazing asset. Please go check it out. Check out our page, thenewamericanmedia.com, youtube.com/thenewamericanmedia. Subscribe at American_media_ on Twitter, and search The New American Media on Facebook. Like our page. Peace. I love you.
Follow the newamericanmedia.com on Twitter at American_media_.